Hi, everyone, and welcome. Do we have everyone that's been in the waiting room entered?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Sorry for the delay. I am, for some reason, not able to share my screen, and I'm not there, so I apologize. My name is Maribeth Resnick, and I am the Director of Online Partnerships for Landmark College. And so today we're going to just discuss and go over navigating the college search for students who learn differently. For those of you that may or may not know, Landmark College is one of the only colleges in the country that supports in all of our students who attend Landmark are students that we say learn differently. So I'm just wanting today we're going to just talk a little bit and give you some information. And I really wanted to share my screen, but I can't because I was going to just go over some of the resources. But please, I think you all received an email that had my contact information. So since this, I'm not going to be able to share my screen. Please contact me, and if you ever want to meet one-on-one, or I can go over this a little bit more, or go over the resource page that is listed on the website. And also they gave you the link, I think, as well. So if you can move forward, we're gonna move forward. I might skip a few just because of time now, since we are a little delayed. So if you can move forward in the slide, please. Okay. Um, Okay, so this was something that usually, since I'm not in person, I usually keep this up. And also, I don't know if any of you have seen this presentation before, but my colleague Fern does this presentation often. So we just kind of like to leave this up for a few minutes and we just kind of have you, it's just one of those like reflective messages. And so it's just something that I'm not going to read through this for you, but it's just something that we just wanted you to take a look at, understand, and just kind of have that as in the background as you listen to me to give you some information, and just really know like where we're coming from when we're talking about supporting our students. You can move forward, please. Throughout this presentation, you may hear some of these terms being used. So just so you know what neurotypical is, neurodivergent, neurodiversity, and really what we're trying to do is try and change the landscape. Let's change the way that we talk. And, we really want to make sure everything is accessible and understand that like neurodiversity, that's really all of us. And so let's really support students who learn differently. And that's what we really want to try to educate others in understanding how to do that. Please move forward. So I'm not one to go into a lot of data per se, but to give you the perspective and the context of why I wanted to talk about this workshop today is just so you can just understanding that students with learning differences right now, this is coming out. This is data is from like 2022 when they did a survey of incoming students in higher education. And so 1 in 5 students we're saying right now are having learning differences. 1 in 16 have an IEP. And so these numbers, if you think about it, how are we preparing our students to get ready for college? Depending on where you're going to school, you have students in public schools, private schools. You have students utilizing educational consultants to help them, outside supports. So how are we supporting our students to making sure that when they are looking for schools that they are prepared? Um, and and the data is showing also that not only how are we preparing them, but how are we making sure that they have the access and that they are successful. And you know what, when we have students entering college, obviously we want them to be able to graduate. So how are we supporting them to get to that transition piece and to support them throughout those years? Please move forward. So this is just some more data that I don't like to go into a lot of this because I don't want to bore you with all of this, but I really just think that, you need to understand the landscape and where we are and why are we doing the work that we're doing in colleges across the country, and the work that we need to be doing in high school to prepare them. Um, so this was, was very eye-opening to me when I started looking into this, diving more into this, and just seeing that like 51% completed a post-secondary school, and that's the general population, right? And now we talk about students who learn differently and those that maybe struggle at times, and we only have 38% of our students with learning disabilities. And so it's just this was done at a large university, and so I'm just going to give you a little facts right here. But we need to improve that. So how can we improve that? not only, how all of us can, like let's really let's look deeply into this. And, as a family, as a school, as higher education, as people who work in the field of education, how can we support our students, and that I'm going to keep saying that because that is my passion. And so I'm on the other end of the spectrum of all this with all of you. So I am just navigating the evaluation process with my son. So my son is 8. And so I'm just starting navigating how, so this has just been very eye opening to me, and I have a lot of years ahead to plan. But that's why I work at Landmark. It's my passion. I was an educator for a very long time, and now my son just was diagnosed. So this really hits home to me. So can you please move forward? So when we were looking at we call them levels of support. So when you are starting to navigate this process and getting ready to start, working with a college counselor, and trying to, work with your child, student, we wanted to understand what are the levels of support that you can be looking at. And there's lots and lots of information out there. And on the resource page that you will receive, that is also on the website, it kind of goes in. There's lots of resources where you can look to understand and dive deeper into these different levels of support. And so when you go to college or university, the ADA compliant piece. So that's when a student would have to self-disclose, and they'll go get the accommodation. So that would be at the accessibility office or the disability office, and that's what they would call it. And so in all colleges and universities have to provide these accommodations under ADA as long as you have documentation, but that's up. The student must advocate for these support and services. So that's one area. The coordinated services, these are schools will have, their accommodations office, your disability accessibility office, plus additional supports on campus. They might have a smaller staff to student ratio, and but these all, just so you know, in all of these programs that are on college campuses, all of these students need to advocate for themselves in order to access these services. Then there's structured programming. And so these usually have a fee to them. So there might be some schools across the country that they'll say, maybe it's called like the learning effectiveness program or the peer mentor program, or there's going to be certain added supports, so like a structured program that is available on that campus to support a neurodivergent learner. But those will be fee based. The students you still need to go and advocate and ask for those supports and services, but they will support that student along the way around the executive functioning piece, and like weekly meetings and check-ins, and really help support them with that time management. So there's a lot more, like there's that extra layer to that. And then we have LD colleges. Obviously, one of them is one I work at. There's others too. And so these comprehensive supports are weaved in through everything at the college. And so you'll have full-time support. You'll have additional like social pragmatics tracks. You'll have accommodations. You'll have, comprehensive academic support. So all of these things will be included in that cost of the tuition type of thing. So there's different levels, and I'm happy to share. I have lots of examples of all of these. So if you want some more information, please don't hesitate to reach out. Next slide, please. Okay, so the legal, so just to understand the legal perspective. So when you're in K-12, you're going to have one law, and then once you graduate high school, you're going to have another law that protects you. So the K-12, so we want you to understand, when you're in K-12, that school district is responsible to support that student. That we call it, some places call it child find. There's others that if they see a need, they're going to reach out and put them through a process and document and collect data in order to receive support. So under IDEA, which is the Individuals with Disability Education Act, and so that is what we say in K-12. We want to make sure that student is successful, right? We're going to put goals in place. You're going to have teachers supporting you. You're going to have meetings. You're going to have check-ins. You're going to meet with that school staff. And those are mandated. You have to, right? You have procedural safeguards as a parent, so they need to make sure that they're explaining all of your rights and regulations and the supports that you receive under that. Now, please know that your child, student, I'm not sure if I have parents on here or school personnel, but when a student does graduate from high school, once they receive that diploma, your IEP is no longer valid, if that makes sense. So that document supports you while you are in high school. Will you utilize that document and that evaluation report from the school in order to help get your services if you go to get your accommodations? Yes. But know that IDEA is what supports you when you're in high school. And once you graduate high school and you need to receive accommodations, then you fall under ADA, which is the American Disability Act, and that supports you in college, in college and university and post-secondary supports. Before I go, does anybody have any questions about this? Let me just see if I see a chat. I don't think we do. Just so you, where'd it go? Okay. So that's just one thing I just really want to understand is that in Association of Higher Education ahead, has a really wonderful chart that shows the difference between these two laws. And also they have a wonderful resource. So I also added that in the resource page. But this is just something that you really need to understand. And that's why I think what we really need to do is, when you work with your college counselor in high school, and if you're and the case manager say the student has an IEP 504, those two people should really also be coordinating too. And so if you can, and it doesn't always happen, and this is I've done a lot of training and push on this around the country for schools to really have that college counselor, that case manager for special education, that those parents, that student all really work together, because it's we should all be collaborating as a cohesive support to support that student. So that student needs to understand their advocacy skills. They need to understand what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses. They need to understand their evaluation. In order for someone to be successful when they go to higher ed, they need to understand what they need to support them. So what are their accommodations? Why do they need to be able, why do they have these accommodations? Where do I go to request these accommodations? So it's really, really important that these students understand this legal perspective as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is just, I was kind of what I've just babbled on about. I could just babble and talk a lot, so I apologize. But you also need to understand, when you go to higher ed, they're going to just say, we are here to support access for a student, where, in K-12, they're going to say, we want them to be successful. But how do we merge that success and access together is my big takeaway. Obviously, yes, you need to be able to access the classes and get those accommodations when you go to higher education, but we also want to make sure those students are successful. And so not all schools and universities will have those additional supports to make sure that student is successful. So that's why this is so important, to making sure that our students leave high school prepared, know who they are as a learner, understand their rights and responsibilities, and do as much front loading as we can. And it takes a lot of work, and when I went to college, I was underprepared, and and I struggled, and I have ADD. So but it was one of those learning situations where you think you have all the tools in the toolbox, but then when it comes to you and you're on your own, it's like, where do I go to look? Like, I know I learned all like what to do and how to advocate, but then what do I do when I feel overwhelmed? So we really need to make sure that we prepare our students for that transition piece. So I think it's really huge. The more that we can let them understand their rights and responsibilities and understand who they are in their evaluation report, because that evaluation report they receive to get those accommodations when they're in higher ed is very crucial for them to know what they need and how they're going to be successful. Next slide, please. So how are we going to make this transition easier? So the transition planning is really key when you're in high school. So all students have to have it. If you have an IEP, they have to have a transition plan included in that, and so in like their goals and what they're going to do post-secondary. So it's really, I think it's really, really crucial. And I think if you Googled, you did some research and just around the collaboration between the college counseling department, the special education department, families, and the student is, I think, one of my, as I was saying, is passion, but it's really like we need to make sure that they have the right college match. When you get really excited if you want to go to college, and so you're like, okay, I'm going to go on my, some people use Naviance, it depends on what the school uses, and I'm going to put in my interests, okay, and you're going to get a list of schools. Well, we all have really high hopes, and I'm like, my goal is I'm going to go here, here, and here, but like, where am I going to be successful? And really knowing, like, am I going to, what's the school size I'm in currently, and what's the high school size I'm in now? What types of supports am I receiving right now? who's supporting me, at home and at school? What do I do before school, after school? How do I get up? So really making sure, if the school is really, really a big university, how long is it going to take me to get from my dorm to that class? For example, I struggle getting up in the morning. So I need to make sure. So it's like really understanding who you are and that level of support that you would need and how to navigate all of that. So it's really, really important that you go to these open houses and you go on these tours, and then you find out like what types of supports are on those campuses and what is the process to get those extra supports. Where's the tutoring? How do I do that? The accommodations office, some say disabilities office, some say accessibility, knowing where that office is and what type of information do they need, what type of documentation. So all those things look differently at every school. They all provide the accommodation, but the process might look a little different. Next slide, please. Okay, move forward. Thanks. Okay, so this is kind of going around. So self-advocacy, we're kind of starting to navigate into the self-advocacy piece of this. So self-advocacy, who you are as a learner, these are really, really important skills. And not only am I talking about just self-advocacy skills, but also time management. So that executive functioning piece. And also like, what do I like? What are my interests? Do I really like cold weather? Knowing where you want to maybe even geographically look at areas. Maybe I struggle when it's really cold out and dark out every day in the winter time. So maybe something different, school and so it's just like really understanding who your interests are and who you are. And knowing how you learn, like what type of learning environment do I learn best in? If so in how do I get up in the morning? Who wakes me up in the morning? So like asking yourself those questions if you're a parent or if you're an educator, having those conversations with your students. You could do a whole class on this of just self-advocacy prior to, self-advocacy skills before you leave and transition to post-secondary. What does that look like? So, asking yourself these questions, what type of learner am I? What do I want from my college experience? I don't, most students at 17, 18 years olds don't really know what they want to do, and that's okay. And so we really just need to help them navigate and find that best fit so that they are successful, and everyone talks about, oh, we get to, like, and how do we merge that access and success so that that student is well-rounded. And, what are my accommodations? Another huge thing that I would talk about too is if someone takes medication, well, do they know what their medication is? How do I fill my medication? What am I taking? Why am I taking this? Who gives me my medication in the morning? Is it my mom, my dad, my parent or guardian? Is it myself? So if they don't know what they're taking or they can't take it yet themselves and they want to go to college, it's my one recommendation would be start working on that. There's great apps for that as well, like reminders but they really need to know all of these things. And so we talk about a lot about the academic piece, but it's also those life skills. Do we know how to do laundry? How do I do my laundry? Do I put the color, doing all of those things? Like if they don't want to eat in the dining hall, what do I want to eat? Do I know how to make something if I can make it in my dorm room? Things like that. Next slide, please. Okay. So what do you need? That's the process. Let's talk about this. So just as I keep talking about, the big thing is, you need to work with your school. You need to work with the advisor. You need to have these meetings and some of these could be tough conversations, especially for students if they don't really know much about their disability. I really don't like to say the word disability. I do use it, but how do they learn differently? What does that look like? Do they understand what that means? So really talking about those things. When you narrow down your college search, now when you figure out, okay, these are the schools I'm really interested in, okay, so let's look. Where on the website do I find the accessibility disability office? Who do I contact? If they don't have information listed, then really make sure that you reach out to them because they'll send you stuff. They can send it as electronically, they can send you brochures in the mail. For example, students might be used to using text to speech or speech. And so if they have that built into their laptop, finding out, are you able to use your laptop in a class to utilize those supports? Some schools will say yes, you'll be surprised that some will say no. So knowing these things that the student is using currently to support them, making sure that those schools also have, those accommodations. Because you'll have a list of accommodations in IEP or 50 on an IEP and 504. You're not necessarily going to get all of those same accommodations when you go to higher ed. So really making sure you understand how to advocate and you have the documentation to support that. Let's see, what else do I have on this little slide? Because I just will keep talking. You can move forward. Okay, disclosing. You can do the next slide. So there's research that says disclose when before disclosing this and maybe in your application or wait. So because there's all this stigma, and I don't really have the right answer for you for that. I just I say what you feel comfortable with doing, do it. But the thing is, some of our students don't even realize that they have a learning difference. So sometimes that's why they don't disclose. Some people don't disclose because they're afraid they're not going to get accepted into that school because they disclose. And there's all of these different excuses and things that people say. There's lack of planning. So it's really up to you and your personal preference how you want to manage all of that. But what I really, really can't emphasize enough is just that student knowing who they are, what their learning difference is, how they learn, why they do the things they do, why they need those accommodations, and how to advocate for what they need and practice that. Do these mock interview phone calls with a friend, with a parent or guardian, with somebody at your school, and say, okay, I'm going to practice. I'm going to call and ask about supports and services, or I'm going to call and ask questions about where I can find tutoring or support on campus if I struggle with writing, or just really practicing all of those types of things is a great way. And I'm happy. I do this sometimes with schools. So like I will go in and ask questions or pretend, I've done mock things like that. So you can even have a community member come in and work with students in schools. It's a really like, I can't emphasize enough. It's like we just really need to, and I keep saying I might sound redundant, but the more we can prepare our students before they leave high school, the better. We have, there's so much anxiety and fear and stress that goes into this. And not knowing who you are. And like, really, the high school students starting to navigate who they are as people, like when their brain is still developing. So we need to just make sure that they are comfortable with, and understanding who they are in order for them we want them to be successful. We want these to be, to celebrate and enjoy that getting into college and not being such a fear, so just really, I think disclosing is really key. And the more you can just prepare, the better. And utilize those supports. That's why they're there. Next slide, please. We can, yeah. Good. Okay. What time do I have until? I don't. 4 or 5. You can skip that slide because it's a lot. Okay, and so this is just continuing on this accommodations process, right? So big thing is when you go to college, you get your acceptance letter, and then you're going to start working with the accessibility disability office. They'll usually have on their website, on their landing page, they'll have to request information or to speak with someone to set up an appointment. You'll fill out usually like a Google Doc, or they use like there's certain platforms that they utilize that hold their letters of accommodation and whatnot and your information, confidential information. So there's that process. You'll fill out the information. You'll have like an interview. You'll have a meeting with them and they'll go through your evaluation report, your neuropsych. Then you'll request what accommodations that you need, and then they will write up a letter. It's usually a letter with the agreed upon accommodations that they can provide or will provide. And then usually that student they'll send them the letter in the LMS or the management system. That student will receive an email, receive that letter. It's usually up to that student to send that letter to their instructors that they have that they registered for their classes. Some colleges will have it automated where the student will request a letter of accommodation and they'll put in their classes like in a drop down, and then that letter will get sent to those instructors. More and more schools are trying to do it that way. But for the most part, the student usually has to take that letter of accommodation and let their instructors know that that they provide that letter to their instructors, letting them know that they need accommodations for that class. And then I always say that students should set up a meeting with that instructor so that they don't have to, and they don't ever have to disclose their disability, so they don't have to do that either. But to talk to them and say, hey, I sent you my letter of accommodations. I want to make sure that you received it, and that I would love to meet with you during your office hours at times, if just to touch base or build that relationship. So then that student feels comfortable if they ever don't, if something's not going right, if you don't feel like that their accommodations are being met, then that's a problem. And so I always just say, start out building that relationship with that instructor in the beginning, making sure, follow up, you send that letter, follow up to make sure they received it. And have that conversation. And they need to advocate. I can't express enough where I've seen and heard and have had, families reach out to me and say, like, so and so, they go here and they're not receiving their accommodations. Well, that's a OCR complaint, and there's a process for that. And so, if the student doesn't feel like they're meeting their accommodations that they're receiving, then they need to make sure that that office knows, because there's a whole process, and they are entitled to those accommodations. Next slide, please. So this is just really talking about, the advocacy piece, and just knowing what's beyond the academic support, and really connecting. And so when you're looking for that right fit school, knowing like what's out there, what is the campus life like, what's the area like, are there things I can join, are there, some students might be into sports, so is there like intramurals that they could do, or they might be into gaming, or like Dungeons and Dragons, or like a chess club or something. So are there activities like that? And if not, then those are great opportunities for a student, so for someone to start a club or something on campus, and utilize those skills to advocate for the things that they enjoy doing. Are there, if someone who might struggle with socialization, social skills, do they have social pragmatics or a program on campus that might help with support that? Maybe there's a peer mentor model. If someone that needs counseling, what are the mental health supports on campus? Are they free? How many sessions do you get? So utilize all of these. I mean, these supports are there. Utilize them to help you while you navigate, especially that first year or two, when you transition, because it's a change. It's huge. I mean, you're on your own, and now you're, out of the comforts of where you live, and out of the comforts of that school that you've been at for the past 4 years in high school. Some schools are connected, where they might have been in the same school since they were in middle school. Then it's all in the same building. So it's like this whole world changes, and now that person needs to navigate it, and figure out all the supports on their own. So it's really, I think, like as much uploading you can and do it up front, and figuring out what's best for them, if they'll be successful. And I really, the more I can emphasize is, as someone who has been in the shoes of a student that is neurodivergent, it's a struggle. And so finding that right fit school is really important. I went to a really small college. I went to St. Michael's College. So, but I struggled in the beginning, but a lot of it was just that transition piece. And once I figured out the supports I could have, and it was just like the small class size, I did really well. But there is a struggle, and it's like trying to find out what your fit is and who you are and what supports you really need. Next slide, please. So, does anybody have any questions? These are just more generalized questions that I put up, just, when you're looking for that right fit school, more things that you can ask, like, could you take a reduced course load? What is around that? How many courses is considered full-time? Is the college test optional? What type of, which more and more schools are going that direction? What are their graduation? What is the retention? What do they do to help support students if they start to slip through the cracks? There's supposed to be these supports put in place. And knowing that as the student, they're the ones that are going to get this information, because now under these new laws and regulations, the students are the ones who are responsible. And, you fill out these FERPA forms when they go to college. So having students understand their rights and responsibilities is key. And it's really hard for parents sometimes to have to now be in the back seat and not knowing what is going on. When you've been, invited to these meetings and under IDEA, having to support them, and and you have your IEP meeting and your annual meeting, and then you have an evaluation 3 times a year, and you're getting these updates, and you're having these conferences and whatnot. So it's a big shift. It's a big shift. Next slide, please. So is college the best next step? So there are lots of options out there. We talk about college, we talk about 4-year, 2-year. Then there could be other options. Maybe they're not ready for college, and maybe they're interested in a transition program where that transition program will have a lot of support built in, with life skills, executive functioning, academic support, kind of help navigate where they want to go. They'll do maybe some sort of career or interest survey type of thing. And transitions programs could be like a college living experience, like CIP, a Mansfield Hall type of thing. A gap year would be, maybe they're going to go travel, maybe they're going to go to abroad, maybe they're going to just take like a class here and there. So gap year can kind of look different. There's gap year programs, really great ones actually throughout the country, and overseas too. Maybe they're just going to travel and not go away, and so a lot of students are picking that, to travel for a year, maybe, or 6 months, to figure out what they want to do. So there's lots of things. Maybe they want to volunteer. Maybe they just want to go into a trade or a technical school, or there's all these different things that they can do. If they don't want to go to a 2 to 4-year school right out of high school. Next slide, please. And I'm just Landmark in general. I can just do a little quick couple minutes. Just for those of you who don't know, Landmark College, we're located in Putney, Vermont. We are a school for students who learn differently, and all of our supports and services are built onto the campus. So not only do we offer on campus at bachelor's and associates, we now offer online support. So now we also have online programming. So LC Online offers associate's degree. And now what you can do as a high school student and utilize your Vermont voucher, for those of you that may or may not know, high school students in Vermont can take classes and utilize a Vermont voucher, and we are part of that. And we do have a class. So we offer college level classes for juniors and seniors. And one class in particular, Perspectives in Learning, is a 3-credit course, and they really learn who they are as a learner, and dive into that whole piece of that evaluation, their learning strategies, who they are, fixed mindset versus growth mindset, metacognition, and take a deep dive into the disability rights, understand who they are. They kind of write like a letter to a practice letter to figure out, so when they do go to college, they can self-advocate and understand who they are as a learner. So that is a course now we offer to high school students. That is a seminar class that all students who attend Landmark as an undergrad has to take. So just a little tidbit of information. But that's what I have for you. Do you have any questions for me? And please reach out. I'll put my email in the chat. I think Anna sent you all an email, those of you that received it, about my contact information. But I'm happy to talk to, I'm happy to chat with you one-on-one, answer any questions. I'm happy to, if you are an educator, I'm happy to meet with you, or your school. If you're a parent, please connect me with the school. I work for Landmark, but I actually live in Denver, Colorado. So I apologize for not being here, but I got stuck on my way out. I was at campus all week, and I got stuck on my way out because of a storm here we got 36 inches. And then I was like, I can't get stuck in Vermont. As much as I wanted to get stuck in Burlington, because I love Burlington, I had to get back. So I do apologize for not being there for those of you that are in person, but please don't hesitate to reach out. I have a list of resources. So if you didn't receive that list of resources, I'm happy to share with you. I'm happy to share this PowerPoint, and also just give you a couple other resources like within the resource page that I think you should read, because there's some really great information out there to support you in as you navigate this whole journey, because it's a lot.
Thank you so much, Maribeth.
Oh wait, this is going to you, Adriana. How do I get rid of direct messages? Maybe I can. Oh, you're very welcome. For some reason, my messages went to Adriana, so if she can let that know, that if you can send that out, that'd be great. Does anyone have questions? No? I hope everyone's enjoying the snow.
Hi, Maribeth.
And I'll just wait until everyone
Oh, my
leaves in
sound's
case
off.
anyone
Hold
has a
on.
question.
Okay, now I can hear you.
Do we have questions? I'm just sitting here. I'm done on my end.
Yeah,
But
no, we had 2 people in this session. They don't have any questions, but I also let them know that VSAC will have your information and like all of your goodies on our website as well.
okay, great.
Awesome.
Well, thank
Thank
you for those who
everyone.
attended virtually. I appreciate it, and I hope this
Or
was
2
informative.
people. Yes, thank you, everyone. I really appreciate your flexibility, Maribeth. I'm so sorry you had issues with your presentation.
Oh, it's just the nature of I'm so used to this by now that, and so I can talk. So you just put me. I mean, I would have been able to talk without the presentation. It's just nice for me,
Yeah.
for my brain to have that visual. But no, this is my passion. This is my knowledge, and it's what I've done for a very long time. So I'm happy. It's fine. It's totally fine. It's you have to be flexible, right? What we tell our students, they need to be flexible. So you need to be
Right?
flexible as
Oh
well.
my gosh. Well, thank you so much. I hope like Anna and I will follow up with you and we'll have your recording posted on the VSAC website within the next week.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
Yes,
it. And sorry,
thank
I don't know
you.
why it won't let me share. It was very strange.
I know, I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Good luck
But we appreciate, I hope
snow.
you're having better weather in Colorado than it is.
It's 60 degrees and sunny today, so I'm very excited.
Yeah, you wouldn't have enjoyed it here.
All right, have a good one. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.